Chloe Thaler, and I'm the Vice President of Social Events this semester.
And you're also going to intern with Deloitte next semester, correct?
Yes, in Atlanta.
Awesome. Super exciting. So I'm back again. I'm Hallie. I'm the BAP graduate assistant, and we are really excited to have Stewart Pittman here with us from Deloitte in the Atlanta office as our FPP this week. So I'm going to hand it over to him to kind of introduce himself, and then we are going to get him to talk a little bit about all of the different training opportunities that we have in public accounting.
Thanks, Holly. Hey, everyone, I'm Stewart Pittman. Like she said, I am an audit manager here in the Atlanta audit office for Deloitte. Been with the firm for a little bit over 5 years now. I went to Auburn for undergrad and also went to Auburn for my MAC, so War Eagle, everyone. I don't know how much we'll get into this later on, so I won't spend too much time, but I primarily serve in the financial technology area of Deloitte in Atlanta, so FinTech is kind of what we call it for short. But I've also served private equity firm that invests in some healthcare and healthcare IT companies. I've done a brewery here in Atlanta and a carpet company. So I've kind of worked on a bunch of different jobs during my time, which has been great experience for me and kind of helped me learn a lot throughout my time.
What training did you receive as an intern and full-time hire getting started?
Yeah, so whenever you start as an intern, you will go to the local office training in Atlanta. I believe it's a full week. And if you start in January, you'll do a full week local. If you do a summer internship, you'll do a full week local. And then I think it's sometime in July, they send all of the winter and then the summer interns to Deloitte University for a week to do just a big intern training conference with everyone combined. Most folks from Auburn tend to do the winter internship in January, but some schools like Georgia, a lot more will do summer. So it's good to meet your colleagues from other schools. So full-time is similar. So you will come on, well, I guess similar once all of this COVID stuff stops, which is hopefully soon. Under normal circumstances, you will do a week in a local office training, and then the following week, you will fly out to Deloitte University again. So I'll give a little bit of background on what Deloitte University is. I think it opened sometime in the late 2000, I think 2008, 9-ish. It's a massive, all-inclusive hotel that is in the middle of a farm in Dallas, Fort Worth. But what it is and kind of why I think it's great is that it brings everyone to one localized, centralized training facility from across the nation. In Deloitte University, you got a gym, you got a Starbucks, you have a barn. Everything is completely free at DU except for alcohol. But all the food, Starbucks, everything, just pick it up and go to class. So when you go to the actual classroom, you're in pretty small classes. So it's usually 25 to 30 people. You're sitting at tables of 5 or 6 people in each room. And usually you do not know anyone in your room. Maybe you'll have one person from the same office. So say you were in Atlanta or Birmingham, you'd probably know maybe one person in there. They're instructor led. So they're all live classrooms, and there are usually 2 facilitators in there at a time. It's typically either a senior or a manager, as well as like a senior manager or partner. So you can kind of have the different levels there to ask questions to help facilitate. And they're part of, the folks that are facilitating it are part of our DFX group, which is our Deloitte Faculty Excellence Group. And I can talk a little bit more about that later. But so yeah, those are your training opportunities. They do kind of change as you go up the firm. But DU is something that for your first several years, you will go to at least once a year.
That's awesome. That sounds like so much fun and a good opportunity to meet people, across the firm, like you mentioned. So I think you started to touch on this a little bit, but can you talk a little bit about how your learning has kind of progressed as you move along from your career from, intern to staff to senior and now manager?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think what's really cool about our job is that the work that you're doing each year changes drastically. So when you come in as a first year, there's normal tasks that are similar, probably across most firms of, what a first year might be helping with. It's a lot of learnings going on, you're learning the firm's systems, you're learning how to use Outlook, how to use Zoom, all of this stuff, which y'all probably be pros of now. But that's, you come in with an open mind, ready to learn, ask good questions, good attitude. That's kind of what you look for as a first year. Second year, you're then a little more comfortable with the file, with how an audit works. You're doing a little more challenging areas. And you also have the opportunity to coach up a first year, which I think is really rewarding. So that's your first time that you're kind of senioring someone sort of below you. And then at Deloitte, you'll be a senior for 3 years normally. That's the normal path. So that is big learning opportunity there with kind of managing an engagement. And so I think this is what you're getting at, Hallie. I talked about the private versus public and different opportunities kind of earlier. So one thing that really drew me to Deloitte was the ability to serve on both public and private jobs throughout the year. But why that's good from a learning perspective is whenever you're on a private job, you get to see a lot more of the job. So you get to see a lot more work papers. You get to probably deal a lot more with managers, senior managers, partners, than maybe you would on a public job. And so I think having both of those in your portfolio that you've worked on, whenever you go from a private job to a public job, you might have seen more, so you could be familiar with different areas. Or if you go from public to private jobs, you know how hard a work paper could be. And so then whenever you're going to a private job, you can dial it back and you know the riskier areas to focus on for the different account balances or whatever it might be. So I think that is something that is everyone should strive to try to have whenever they start full time, is, you know, a wide variety of jobs, different team sizes, because that can just help you grow.
That's really interesting. I actually didn't know that you worked on private and public.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yep.
You spoke on this a little bit earlier, but your trainings, are they self-paced or instructor-led?
Yeah, so they're both. Each year you're going to have those trainings where you go to DU, and those are instructor-led. And then there will also be, kind of depending on the topics, there could be some instructor-led ones, you know, in Atlanta or whatever local office you're going to. But then you're required to do some trainings that are online, and they're virtual, and they are not necessarily instructor-led live. Now they're still instructor-led, but they are usually recorded. So there's definitely both, I would say. What I have seen is, and just honestly myself, is the ones that aren't actual live or instructor-led, I get a lot less from. Like it's kind of easy to just click through quicker. You might not pay attention as much. So I really appreciate the firm investing heavily in Deloitte University and spending the time and money it takes to fly everyone out there. Because when you're in a room all together, you're just more apt to learn. If you're sitting there from 8 to 6, you know, you're all ready to go have fun at night in the bar and have a good time, but you're in that room and you're going to be, you know, bouncing questions off each other, because everyone's experience on different clients across the US could be different. So you can really gather a lot from each other.
That leads into my next question a little bit about kind of using other people to help with that learning process. So what kind of informal development opportunities do you have while you're on jobs from, you know, seniors, managers, partners above you? How does that informal training kind of look?
Yeah, so that's a good question. And it honestly looks kind of different now in the environment we're in, because one concern that we had as a audit team this year was, you know, our team's doesn't have the opportunity to go to DU, right? The staff that just started this fall, or maybe the first years, we're going to go to DU this summer and kind of learn how to be second years, whatever it might be. They missed out on that. So we got together as a manager group and we're like, okay, how can we help our staff not miss out on those opportunities? So what we try to do, it's not once a week, but I would say it's at least every other week, every couple of weeks, is we will do kind of like a lunch and learn, or we'll take like an hour and we will all go sit down and we might go through the audit sampling guide. We might go through our Deloitte technical library that's online and just how to use it. Or, you know, go through what GITC, so internal controls over, you know, IT specific areas, because I know I didn't know what that was as a first year. So I think we've tried to pinpoint different topics, and we've even asked our staff kind of, what do you want to learn more on? And we've taken that on as a manager group to kind of facilitate those and make sure that our staff is not missing out on the formal training opportunities during this COVID time. But non-COVID kind of day-to-day, what I would say is one of the best ways that you can learn in the audit room is just, if you have your headphones in, just take them out when a partner walks in, take them out when a manager comes in, and they just start talking to someone else about a different area that you're not working on. Because just listening and soaking it all in is how you're going to learn. It might be 3 weeks down the road and you're in a work paper and you're like, oh, I remember when Bob was talking about this in the audit room, and you could then ask your senior that question. So I think just soaking all that up is really important, because one thing that I love about working at Deloitte is just everyone is so smart on your engagement, that people have a lot of knowledge that you can learn from and ask questions to, which is awesome.
Yeah, I can definitely attest to that. Even just during my short 3-month internship, I made sure to never wear headphones, and the things that I heard and was able to learn just by listening to people who knew obviously way more than me was crazy.
Yeah, I can't listen to music whenever I work, but everyone makes fun of me that I usually listen to like nature noises. I know it's weird, but like I'll listen to like rain or some wind or something so I can focus and still hear kind of what's going on. But yeah.
Right. Well, I think Chloe has one more question to wrap us up.
So do all the professionals go through the same trainings, or do you receive opportunities to learn about subjects that interest you?
Yeah, so everyone goes through the same structured ones, and then you build out what we call our development plan. So Deloitte has, trainings that everyone does, and then they give you a list of options of other trainings that you're required to do, but it's maybe a list of 20 and you can pick 5. So like on that, if you had an interest in, say, blockchain, you could maybe pick the blockchain training and go to that, or whatever other new relevant topic it was, whether it's maybe leases. So the new ASC 842 lease training, if you knew that you had a lot of lease accounting on your job, you could go through and do that. So that's kind of one way. And it can also be customized in a couple more ways. So earlier I mentioned that the facilitators at DU were part of the DFX group, so the Deloitte Faculty Excellence Group. So once you've seniored for, I think it's after your first year, you can volunteer to be part of that group. So I joined that group 2 years ago. So I've facilitated at DU 2 years ago, and then I was supposed to go again this year for a couple of the second year trainings. But obviously that didn't happen. So they were all virtual. So I had to learn how to facilitate virtually, but that's another way. I wasn't a big fan of public speaking. So that was one area that I wanted to kind of grow and get better at. So I forced myself to sign up to be part of that group. And I'm so glad that I did. And I think the other one that I would say is really important and kind of, I think separates Deloitte is the ability within the audit practice to help out in our ARA division. So it's like a advisory type aspect where you can be an audit and be serving on audit clients. But let's say that Deloitte doesn't audit a company, we can still, bring in revenue from that company by providing some advisory type services. So what we started a couple of years ago was leveraging our audit folks to provide those ARA services, which are not just normal audits. So it could be anything from going in and working beside the company as part of like maybe an internal audit group, or it could be that the company needs help with the new RevRec standard. So if we audit the company, we're not able to go in and help them implement the new RevRec standard. But if we're not the auditors, we can go in and help them with that. So you can have a big audit engagement throughout the year, and you can raise your hand and say, hey, I want to help with some ARA projects to your senior manager. And when these projects pop up, you can go help them for a couple of weeks doing like a ASC 606 implementation on another company, which I think that has gone really well the last couple of years. And people have said that, it just mixes up their day to day and has kept them really enjoying their job. So I think that that's something really cool that we do.
That's awesome. That sounds like it would be really fun and an opportunity to learn something different.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Well, I think that's all you have. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk about that. All that's really interesting and kind of shows how much you are able to always learn in a job in accounting.
Yeah, you'll never get bored. You'll always be learning. So I appreciate y'all inviting me and for this interview. War Eagle, everyone.
War Eagle.